All right. So the league and the players, they may not be ready to start the baseball season just yet, but we here at Motor City Sports Talk the Roar, we're ready for it. And we're going to do it with Mr. All Nine Romine, Andrew Romine. Thank you so much for taking the time. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, man. How you been?
Fantastic. Andrew Romine, I mentioned All Nine Romine. We'll get into that. Of course, that's the elephant in the room that we have to at least bring up once in that moment. You recently called it a career after 11 years, doing so last December. How's retirement treating you so far?
Well, retirement lasted about a month, so now I'm working. I'm working like everybody else, but
Yeah.
no, it's been really good. We got our place out here in Arizona after we left California, and we're really enjoying being around family and friends. We got lots of family out here, lots of kids to play with, and my daughter is about 2.5 now, so we get to do all the little kid family fun stuff.
I love it, man. I love it. And 4 years here in Detroit with the Tigers. Let's get the elephant out of the way. All Nine Romine, 2017 September of becoming the fifth player in MLB history to play all nine positions in a single game. You had a family in the stands at Target Field against the Twins, and I believe we got a win that night too. Is that correct?
We did,
We
yeah.
did. There you go. So talk about that moment, how cool that was, and also at what point in your career did that become something that you thought maybe I can pull off?
Well, I didn't even bring it up. That was brought up in 2014 when I first signed with the Tigers, and we're sitting in Washington. We're supposed to do a exhibition game, and I think it got rained out. So we're back at the hotel. A couple of us are sitting down in the lobby, hanging out in the lobby, having a drink, and Osmus comes up and sits down and is like, "Hey, have you ever thought about playing all the positions?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think about it all the time, but that's not really my decision now, is it?" And he's like,
Right.
Yeah. So he goes, "Well, just so you know, I was part of the last game where somebody did that, and because Shane Halter did it." And
Right.
he was all excited to tell a story about how he got to play third base while Shane was catching. And so we just kind of chatted for a bit, and he goes, "All right, well, I'll keep that in mind." So 3, 4 years later, he comes up to me at the end of the season and he goes, "Hey man, you ever revisited the playing all nine in one game?" And I was like, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
So
I love
he
I love that a win came out of it as well too, because usually you do
right.
something that comes off as gimmicky in the game, and for some fans, the result almost doesn't matter because you're just focusing on where you're playing next, and you
Yeah.
guys pull off a win in that one too.
Well, I'm sure Minnesota wasn't very happy that we were playing a circus game and they ended up losing anyways. But well, I only had to pitch to one guy, so that didn't
Right.
really make it a big difference.
You
But
got
it
them
was
out too, by the way.
I did, and it was Sano, and I ended up going to spring training last season with the Twins. So I got to go mess around with him and joke about how I got him to roll over to third.
So every practice you were pitching to Sano, is that what I'm hearing?
Pretty much.
Oh
Just
man.
just trying to not let him hit it 700 feet. But
That's very, because he gets a hold of it, he can do just that. So that's something, that's a moment that everyone brings up when your career comes up. But for you, is there another moment in your career outside of that that stands out, maybe as number two during your 11-year career?
it's funny because almost all the conversations go directly to that,
Mm,
and that's not even the thing that I remember the most.
okay.
My brother debuted against me, and I don't know if that's ever happened with another set of brothers before,
Right.
but the fact that he got called up in Anaheim. I was playing for the Angels at the time, and the Yankees were in town. And my parents lived in Anaheim at that time, so they got to come to the game and watch him debut against me. So that is equally as cool for me to talk about. And then, I mean, I hit a grand slam. That was probably one of the most exciting moments I've ever had in baseball. I mean, the playoffs in 14,
Right.
there's a handful of things that it's hard to pick one and say that one was like the pinnacle moment. But I mean, playing all nine it was more fun than
Yeah.
anything because
Sure.
other guys got to move around. They got to go to different positions. We had our catcher playing second base, giving me signals for pitches. It was just like a backyard baseball game. It was really cool. And then to top it off, at the end of last year, I got to play with my brother.
Yeah.
So that alone, being able to pitch to him because we were getting blown out. So Ross brought him in to catch.
Sure.
There's just a lot of moments that kind of stand out, and none of them were really any better than the others. It was just kind of a really cool career.
Yeah. So you spent 4 years in Detroit. You mentioned the postseason in 2014. Talk about playing in the city of Detroit. It is a huge baseball town. How cool was it for you to play and play a part of a team that made it to the postseason?
Well, the first thing that I remember, because that was the first year that I was there in 14, and I remember it being freezing cold, there's snow outside, and the stands are completely full.
You're like,
And
at first you're like, I hate it here. And then you step out and you're like, oh, wait, okay, people are here.
baseball's not a cold weather
Nope.
sport. So, but the people are just itching to get outside in April, man.
Yeah.
They can't wait because they've been packed away in snow for the whole winter. And
Yeah.
to see people show up when it's not very good conditions, that was kind of a cool thing for me. And I started to realize what fandom was in the Midwest and back east and compared to the West Coast. It's a little bit different when it's sunny year round. It's not the same kind of desire to get outside as it is.
Right. And it's funny you say April. For me, it's March. Like today's March 1st, and I'm already excited. I've showed up in a short sleeve, like I'm ready to go. There's still snow on the grass out here. It hit 40 though, so I'm excited. And that's just how it is. Like when baseball comes back, you mentioned baseball's not a cold weather sport. So even if it's 30 degrees out, in our minds, it's like 70 and we're ready to go. So
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Tigers a little bit. They rebuilding. A lot of fans are excited. They're excited what they saw last season under AJ Hinch, signing of Javier Baez, Eduardo Rodriguez. How close are you following the Tigers, and how excited are you to watch your former team coming up this season?
I'll have to say this is probably the least amount that I have followed, because as soon as I figured I was ready to retire and check out, I had to do the step back thing, not consume my brain, especially with all of the COVID. And then there's the lockout. And now it's just like, I didn't want to worry, because last year in 2020 also, everybody was worried, are we going to play? What are we doing? When are we going to hear something? And it gets pretty taxing, and it makes you a little bit have some anxiety. So I kind of stepped back a little bit. I do see, and I have seen what they've done over the last years, and to see some of the talent that's coming up, not only the guys that they signed recently, but the guys that they signed in the past, the young kids that are coming up, because they've got a lot of young talent. And I got a couple of games that I got to see some of the guys in Toledo and see some of that talent coming up. It's a bright future for them. And it really just depends on, do they hold on to guys? Because you never know what's going to happen anymore. Guys can get traded, they can stay, who knows? They could sign them to 10 years. So
yeah, and sometimes those 10-year contracts don't matter. If 5 years in, they decide it's not working out and something goes from there. Okay, so you said you took a step back. How close are you following this MLB lockout? If you are, how stressful is it on the game? Zero, you're not even paying any attention to what's going on?
No, man. No, because what good is it going to do? I know you guys go in, you check in every day, but I guarantee you, if something happens, I'm going to hear about it from my father-in-law. I'm going to hear about it from my dad, from my friends. Somebody's going to text something. It's going to be on social media. I don't have to follow it. And I have the luxury of saying, I'm not worried about if I have to get on a plane and fly to Florida. So I don't have to worry about if I'm ready to go or not.
That's fair. So you mentioned your father, you grew up in a baseball family. Was baseball ever not an option for you growing up?
I don't think so. In my mind, it never was. It was always, everything that I'm doing with the thought of, this is what's going to get me to the big leagues.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. And it's great to grow up in that atmosphere, learn a lot before a lot of people do, right? Like other players, they're not learning until they start playing organized baseball, maybe in high school or whatever. For you to grow up in that's huge for you.
It's really hard to say no to somebody who played 10 years of professional baseball and be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. So
maybe I'll follow. Okay. The one time you'll say yes to that, right? Since retirement though, you got camps going. Talk about the camps you got going on. You got one coming up this weekend on Saturday, I believe I saw. Talk about what you got going on over in Arizona.
Yeah. So we have our first camp coming on Sunday the 6th this weekend. One of my teammates that I played with at ASU, Matt Hall, he had played professionally with the Rays for a bit.
Yep.
And we both recently moved back to Arizona, him very recent. And we had always talked about getting together, doing camps, doing lessons, doing all kinds of stuff, teams even at some point. So we sat down and we started mapping out, like, let's throw some stuff out there. Let's get going. I mean, it's sunny year round, so we can do this stuff through the winter too. Yeah. So I got, I do some lessons nearby with a few kids here and there, just kind of keep it close, knit group of young kids to try and pass on what I can. Because if I just stopped doing baseball stuff, I think I'd go crazy.
Sure.
But it's fun being able to see these kids kind of understand something and then apply it. It's almost like I'm still playing through them. I don't have to physically do it anymore, so I'm not in pain, but I get to watch these kids get something that clicks and then see them get excited about it. And that kind of drives me to keep doing more and take on more kids to see what I can pass on. Because that's what it's all about, right? You keep the baseball community going, and it's like a fraternity where you pass on what you know.
Right. Yeah. And let people know where they can find, all the information on that, where they can get more about your camps.
Well, I'm very proud of this because I made this website. So I'm not a big computer guy, but I go on, I start figuring out all this. I had a little bit of free time, make my website, all9romine.com. I got some hats and stuff coming, some gear. So we're getting things going.
You're learning.
Recently, I'm getting the internet stuff, man. I was non-existent for 20 years. So it's a slow start, but I got to figure it out anyways. But so we got a weekly thing that Matt and I do where we just kind of get on, and for 10 or 15 minutes, we just pick a random topic, talk about it, post it, let the kids listen. I mean, it's like I said, we're talking about passing on information to these next kids. We're not charging people for it. We're not trying to, make a living off of this. We're just out there to pass on the good information so the kids don't go get lost on YouTube or something, listening to some guy that doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right. It's very true. That's awesome. And I'm glad you figured out how to do that, because that's the perfect way to do it, right? Especially with COVID, so many things went virtual, and stuff like that. Kids can learn without having to come, physically to you, and, or if they're not in Arizona, and they could still learn from you. That's huge. Now,
well, actually, since you mentioned that, I've had a couple of clients that were in Michigan, because I mean, a lot of my career was spent in Michigan, and guys, they messaged me and they're like, hey, we can't make it out to Arizona. And I was like, let's get on a Zoom and we'll just, let me watch him, put the video on of him hitting, and we'll do some tee work and stuff, and I'll do some corrections. So that's great. People crave it, man. They love baseball. People are born and raised to play baseball these days.
That's awesome. I love it, man. I grew up doing the same, and having that would have been great. Like you said, in Michigan to Arizona, put your phone up, to put your camera on, and you swing, and we can help out that way. That's huge.
Yep.
So before I let you go, I got to play a quick game with how well do you know your own career? And I love that you're not computer savvy, because you won't be able to search your numbers up too quick.
No.
But there's just 3 quick questions. Let's see if you can pull it out of your hat. You ready for this?
All right.
How many games in your major league career did you pitch in total?
8.
Correct.
Yeah, that might be the only one I know. That might be the only thing I know.
Spot on that one. That's impressive. And that was spread out between a few different teams, a few different seasons. That's impressive. Okay. All right, let's do your career high in home runs for a single season. Give me the number, the team, and the year.
4.
Correct.
4 for the Tigers.
What season is it?
Well, it wasn't 14. I know that. And so it was 15, 16, or 17. I 16 or 17, man. It's 16 or 17. 17.
17 is correct. Look at you, 2 for 2, man. All right, last question. Which outfield position did you play the least amount of games in, and how many was it?
Oh, I don't know how many.
It's not a big number.
Right field?
Correct. If you had a ballpark, how much, no pun intended, but ballpark of what, how many games you played out there?
11.
14. Not far off. Not
That's
bad.
not bad. That's
Not
not
bad.
bad.
Not bad. You spot on just about with all those questions. You didn't think, you said the first one's the only one you would get right.
I know. Well, that's the one of all the things that I remember the most, I remember pitching
Sure.
because it's so unique and I don't do it.
Yeah, you hit that. It was spread out. I think you did it for the Cubs. I mean, I'm not surprised you did it with the Cubs because in the National League with no DH, like things get a little quirky in games. That's awesome. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time. Enjoy everything you're doing out in Arizona. Of course, all9romine.com. Get all the information you can about the camps and everything you have to offer, both virtually and over in Arizona. Let's play some baseball soon, please.
I know.
Thanks
We
so
got to
much.
get this figured out, man. The people need something positive going right now. There's too many negative things going on in the world.
Very true. Very true. Andrew, thank you so much. Enjoy yourself. We'll talk very soon. Okay.
I appreciate it. Let's do it again soon.